Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have an amazing show for you today. Something unique, something completely out of the box, something that we haven't done before. And when you go online and find information about, what AI is impacting, how people are building products, you usually get this, run-of-the-mill stuff, chatbots or support mechanisms, some workflows, but very few people take you deep into the way that systems are built inside bigger organizations that have commercial success. Nobody really wants to, share. Nobody wants to open the door for you, even a little bit. Everybody's keeping themselves gated and caged. And we want to come out and say, yeah, we're going to be building hands-on and showing you something that is real life production-grade autonomous systems. We're not going to be using decks. We're not going to be taking you from some boring presentations. We're going to be opening the hood for you and for the people globally that are watching us to show you behind the scenes how AI runs in a global fintech, multi-billion-dollar company that has thousands of employees, and how these systems are actually built. This is a live broadcast. This is not a recording. Yeah. So definitely this is Saturday Night Live style. There's not going to be any edits. And if you see anything going off, if the system slows down, if a bug pops up, we'll be fixing it real time. You'll have to bear with us, and we'll be exploring these systems in real time and looking into them. And you have a real-time chat, so you can actually talk with extremely talented engineers looking forward. And that's the reality of it. That's the cutting edge of technology. That is the tip of the bleeding spear. We're not afraid to show it. We're not afraid to bring you forward into that reality. So I'm very glad to have you all and a few hundred people watching us online right now. So this is going to be amazing. To get us kick-started, we're going to have our guest to join us. So I'd love to invite Chris and Harsh. Yeah, welcome to the stream, guys. Yeah, you popped up here, so welcome. It's going to be an amazing show. So first of all, Christopher Hernandez, say hi.
Hey guys.
So Chris is the mind behind what we call the silent sentinel. So he's going to show you how AI can reason through security threats at scale with no human touch. Yeah. So this is, I think, one of the hottest things in the world today, which is we know that these systems are capable of malicious intent driven by human interaction. And I think it's a miracle that we haven't seen on a large scale a drastic breakdown of security interfaces. And people like Chris are working on the front lines to ensure that that doesn't happen. And so we're going to be taking a deep dive into how AI, I want to say fights AI, but defends us against AI. Yeah, because you can't really, no human can keep up. No human can be set against an AI, a malicious threat. I think we had one of the last examples in the world where we had Psycho, as you guys remember, right? Winning the world challenge. Polish, by the way, very much, go Poland there. So he was, I think, he's going to be remembered as the last human that beat an AI system in a straightforward one-to-one coding challenge. Yeah? I don't think that's ever going to happen again. That's just my opinion. And so that's going to be super cool. And then You have Harsh Solanki, which is, by the way, an amazing last name. So probably not Polish, yeah. But he's going to be solving the growth versus compliance puzzle. So how do we create stacks that actually allow us to be inside the regulation environment, but also be innovative? And it's a huge challenge. So we're always in any organization, even if it's a basic startup organization, you're always dragged down by stock. You're always dragged down by compliance. And there's no getting away from it. You have to do it, right? The question is, how do you do it without impacting speed? So this is going to be an amazing insight. And first of all, let's get some insights, right? So would love to get your thoughts to get us a little bit warmed up, right, in the next 5 minutes before we go into the product itself. Get your perspective. These systems aren't just automating tasks; they are automating reasoning, right? So these are chain of thought systems already, very advanced, complex. Multiple things can happen, not just one automation, right? Guys, what you've built is the blueprint for the next decade in fintech, right? So, can you bring us a little bit closer? How does your team actually interact, with the human security layer versus the AI security layer? How is that journey, to bring people into the conversation that they are now in this new reality?
Oh, that's a great question. So, example of that would be we two people who are sitting over here. For me, I'm taking care of those creatives, and I have Chris with me, who is from security. He's the one pushing me back on, hey, you can't do this. This is how it's supposed to be done. There needs to be guardrail. Obviously, his team has the know-how and the domain knowledge about the security aspects, which we basically exchange and try to put into as much into the guardrails of our system as possible. And on top of that, then Chris's teams comes in. They help us that, hey, your AI missed these things, and they take care of the rest. So yeah, it's a bit of both the traditional practices, like how you put that text into your prompt, the NLP, the old school ML practices, and then Chris's team who brings in the flavor of AI to put that security in place.
Okay, Chris, so as a word of introduction, you're going to be showing us how these systems work. So what is your, maybe type of taking a step back, what is your broader perspective on AI and security? So what was the change that you've seen over the last 6 to 12 months?
Well, I think AI, it's impacting everyone. It's not just security. It's a great tool when it's used properly, but get it in the wrong hands, and it really supercharges the kind of actions that they can do, the type of compromises that can arise. And so I think that's the biggest thing is that, we see a lot of threat actors that are just becoming a lot more empowered with AI. They're taking a lot more risks, and they're compromising a lot more companies. And so again, that's why we want to build these proper defenses against our ecosystem to make sure we don't get compromised.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I think it's a moment where everybody's ready. Everybody has joined us on the stream. So let's get started. If we can bring Chris to the main screen now and get going with what you'd like to show us.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So what I'd love to take you guys through is our silent sentinel. So to give you guys a bit of context, what we normally have here as part of the security team is a security operations center. What it is it's a team of analysts, engineers working together. They're mainly creating detection rules. They're correlating across a variety of sources of logs. They're trying to do their own threat enrichment. They're doing threat hunting. And again, this is all very reactive, though. You're trying to build your detection rules based on things that have happened. A company gets compromised, you figure out what an indicator of attack was or the indicator of compromise. You build a detection rule around it, and you think, yeah, great, we're safe. We built a rule. it sends off alerts every once in a while, and yeah, great, we're protected. But the problem is, how do you start protecting against those unknowns? That's the real key thing, because again, like I said, AI is empowering these threat actors to start taking more risks, to become more creative, and um, see these real innovative attacks happening in our environment. So how do we protect against these unknowns? So we took on this pretty big challenge of starting to understand, where do we start from? We want to build an autonomous anomaly detection system that we can ingest any log source, no matter where it's from, and start normalizing it into our own schemas and building these anomaly detections and autonomous responses on top of it. So I'll take you guys through our next gen SOC, which is what we're doing. We're empowering not only human subject matter experts, but we're enriching them with autonomous agents to actually find these security alerts and remediate them for them. And so we end up closing that gap where a human isn't actually even needed to actually close the alerts. So how do we end up doing that? Well, we end up bringing on all these variety of log sources. As you can kind of see here, we have a bunch of different log sources that get ingested. Just for everyone to be aware, this is not our actual console. This isn't our actual data. It is very confidential, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. But this is exactly what we do use in production, this same type of setup. But what you see is we'll have our logs being ingested. We have our log normalization, which we map it to something called the OCSF framework, which helps us standardize the different keys and features that we would want from every single source. We use an LLM to map these variety of log sources to our schema. And then we have custom trained ML models that we then sit on top of all of our log sources that are trained per source to start helping us do anomaly detection. Once we start detecting these anomalies via our ML model, we then have an LLM agent that sits on top of that to start doing some analysis on the logs that are being received. So once we get that alert, we build a giant correlation engine so that it is not only pulling information from one log source, we actually correlate it across all of our log sources across our entire environment. And that way we can give it really enriched contextual information as to what that user is doing, if we see any lateral movement happening in any other systems as well, and correlate all that activity together. So we give that as context to the LLM. We also built a historical user baseline of normal activity that we see as acceptable. That's what really helps us drive what is anomalous and what should be detected as a security event. Because once we start seeing weird behavior that the user doesn't normally do, you see someone taking some weird actions or maybe deploying things that they shouldn't be doing, they start having a higher level of access that they normally wouldn't. That's exactly what our system is designed to start catching. So from that point, once we actually have the LLM start deciding whether or not this is a security event, gets passed over, and we actually have our Slack channel where we start seeing these alerts come through. So I'll take you through that a little bit later on. As you can see here, we also want to make sure we have a human in the loop at all times. This is where we have our analyst feedback. We make sure our subject matter experts, our analysts, are actually going through these alerts, making sure that we're actually giving them high fidelity alerts and they're true positives. Based on their feedback, we actually use that to retrain our models to make sure that we tune out any of those false positives to make sure that they're only focusing on real, actual alerts for us. And so what you can see over here, we'll take you through all of our alerts that we have here that kind of come through. You can see our scores that it gives it based on how confident it is that this is actually a security alert that we should be investigating. It gives us a great summary of what's actually happening, does a deep dive, a L2 analysis for what this event is about, gives us our log information so we know who it's happening to, what they're doing. It gives us the contextual logs as well as to what the user was doing, plus or minus 3 hours, so that we have a really good picture of what is happening within that time frame. And so once this alert comes through for us, it gets posted over to our Slack channel. Now, in this Slack channel, this is where our humans would typically start coming in. They start doing their own level of triage, start investigating, seeing what they can do, what they can't do. They start talking to users, trying to get some information out of them. But again, that's where we want to bring AI into this picture. We want to make sure that we're empowering our staff, but making their job easier as well. So what we'll do is, again, once an alert is detected, we give them quite a bit of information. We tell them, hey, what this alert was, who did it, and some basic information from the initial alert. But then we have our other autonomous agents that kick in, giving them much more detailed information, gives them their technical summary of what's happening. We go into threat assessment as to what has happened, where we think the lateral movement might happen, and also recommended response actions that we should start taking. Do we want to contain this user? Do we want to disable their accounts? Do we need to start, revoking accesses in different areas? So this is what our autonomous agents start recommending for us, because again, they have full contextual awareness of all of our systems. They know who this user is. They built that profile. They know what they have access to, and so they can start telling us, hey, I see this action happening over here. You might want to start locking down some of these other systems so that way we can get them really secured and contained. But we don't want to just stop there. We have our subject matter experts with us. So we want to make sure that we can also automate this whole entire system so that it's not just us flooding them with alerts over and over and over again. So we work very closely with all of our subject matter experts to make sure that we can actually start remediating these alerts. And so that's where we bring in another autonomous agent. We have Harvey over here. And what he actually does is we'll build playbooks for him to work alongside with the humans. We'll have our subject matter experts, our analysts kind of telling us what this should be doing, what actions should be taken, what kind of tools can he call so that he can actually get a better contextual awareness of what's happening. And so you'll see here, he wants to start investigating. He sees what's happened. We have a playbook designed for him. He gets that contextual information as to what's happened, the event details, and he starts asking the user questions. So he'll actually bring the user into these channels so we can start getting some verification from them as to what is actually happening. Now, we don't want to just rely on this person saying, hey, yeah, I did this action, it's completely fine. What we actually do is we give him access to a bunch of different tools so that way he can actually validate those findings on his own. He'll look through Slack channels. You'll see this change ticket. They'll say, yeah, it was because of this. We'll start investigating. We'll see if it all makes sense, if it all aligns with what we think should happen. And we start doing our own verification. He checks again whether or not that ticket exists, whether or not it was approved by their managers or by anyone else. Checks our Slack channels to make sure that yes, there is a project that's being worked on this type of thing, and then it'll give us a resolution. It'll actually tell us, hey, yeah, I did do my investigation. I worked through this whole process and I was able to figure it out. There's nothing to worry about. We can close this out. Our other autonomous agent comes back in, closes out the alert, gives us a nice executive summary that we can give to any executive that wants to come see or any analyst that wants to come on over. And so how do we actually do this? Again, this isn't just, a simple workflow that we just kind of set up and throw away. What we actually do is we have playbooks that we design. We design these playbooks so that based on what our subject matter experts have seen as the alerts coming in, we can then define how we handle these alerts. We'll match events. We'll say, okay, if you see this type of events happening, again, because we're ditching rules and we're moving to anomaly detections, we still do look towards events to understand what is happening contextually. So we're able to pin the event that's happening to playbooks that they can then autonomously handle themselves. We'll give them instructions, we'll give them detection criteria, the tools that they can call, how to call it, what actions to do, how to do its own threat assessment, how to do its containment if it needs to, and how to start documenting things, to start posting to different channels, how to add things to our database so that we can keep track of everything that's happening within our environment. And so on top of that, again, we'll have customized prompts for every single source. So as we're ingesting these logs, we have that dedicated LLM analysis that happens for every single one of our logs. We customize all these prompts for them. Again, I can't go into too much detail because they are confidential, but these are very fine-tuned prompts that we design per source. And so this is truly how we start moving away from rules that are just very legacy, that you have a lot of man hours that are being spent into trying to figure out what's happening. They have to read through all these different frameworks. They have to kind of go and do their own threat hunting. And instead, we turn it into a fully autonomous system where there's no human required for this once we set down the foundation of what needs to happen. It closes that loop and it becomes an end-to-end, fully autonomous system that is able to handle everything we kind of throw at it. And so this is really how we bring AI into the picture. This is how we truly start defending against, those threat actors that are, like I said, starting to get more ambitious. They want to start compromising these various companies, and this is how we start closing that gap. And so, yeah, I think that's for the most part, that's pretty much everything we have for our next generation SOC right there.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much for taking us through that. If you mind, I'd love to kind of ask you a follow-up question.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I mean, so how would you differentiate this, if somebody is very aware of traditional SOC, right? And that it's, very reactive. So the remediation agent, can predict the lateral movements, right? But can it do it even before the second hop, the second ping is made, or is it multiple agents taking action at the same time that are just copying the actions, or is this agent kind of hopping with the request?
No, I mean, so the way we've designed this is we want it to actually reason. We want it to think these things through. That's why we have this giant correlation engine that looks across all of our sources. We have a user profile to understand, what does this person have access to? What type of access levels do they have? And that way we can start to build a picture of like what is the next potential hop once we see it, We make it intelligent enough so that it can take actions wherever it needs to. And so that way, as soon as it starts seeing hops elsewhere, we can start remediating immediately right as soon as we see those hops going on.
So are you also thinking that in the future it will become predictive? So after it sees enough action and it has a database that's big enough on previous attacks that it will ultimately be able to predict where the next point of contact will be?
I think absolutely. I think it definitely is heading in that direction. Again, a big part of what we do is we retrain these models. We keep retraining with the data that we see coming in over and over. We retune the models to make sure that what our true positives are, those actually get fed in, and those keep feeding into those high fidelity alerts, so that we can make better predictions. We can make better assessments, and then we can then immediately contain those threat actors whenever we need to.
And just a kind of a follow-up question on that. Is that still a manual process, or have you built additional automations that basically retrain the model as each new data point comes in? Or do you kind of still have to have a human in the loop that, I would say, looks at the data, maybe removes the parameters that don't fit, fully on the edge of the training data set? Is there still room for humans in the loop on this?
I think there's always going to be room for humans in this. The subject matter experts, we rely heavily on them, but we do automate this process actually. So we make sure that this retrain is on an automated basis. We do some feedback training with the humans themselves. But for me, I'd say there's never going to be a point where there's never a human involved at some point in this pipeline. I think at various points there always needs to be some sort of a domain expertise going into that. But yeah, absolutely, we are actually well on the way into fully automating the entire process.
I fully couldn't agree more about the human in the loop being present, and I think we want that. It also makes us feel a little bit more comfortable about it. But I totally agree that it's important to build these systems in a way that they collaborate with people, right?
Exactly.
And AI collaborating with people, especially on these very advanced kind of edge cases, is what gives the best results. There's a lot of creativity needed. So I'm also wondering, when you look at legacy systems, so what have you gotten rid of? What can people forget now as these new autonomous systems have come in? New developers coming into the space, finishing university or learning about AI and security, they will get a lot of false flags online or from their academia. What is this, old I don't want to call it, but old stuff that you can forget about and you don't need to learn anymore?
I know there's probably a lot of guys that are gonna impel me on some pitchforks if I say this, but I'd say detection engineering. I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. You have to let go of those legacy rules. You were just living in the past. If you think you can outpredict AI, if you can outpredict these threat actors that are using AI, you were just never gonna be faster than them. You're not gonna outthink them, and staying in the past with that, you're always just gonna be reactive. You are always going to be reactive, and you just cannot keep pace.
So you heard it here first. Detection rules, forget about it. Burn the textbooks, burn the
Absolutely.
websites. Yeah, if somebody's still promoting detection rules online, you know what to do.
There you go.
So let's move into the next segment here. Harsh, it's a pleasure to have you. Chris, thank you very much for this. I'll bring you back on stage later at the end of the next segment to have some final closing questions as well. But let's get into this. So first of all, I'd love to kind of also understand, if you don't mind sharing a little bit personal, the origin of your surname. I think that would be great for people to know, and then we can get straight into it.
I think that's more for my dad to answer, but uh, yeah, what it essentially means is I'm from India, and in India, there's a clan which used to be soldiers. So it's more or less related to that.
Okay, so great to know. So we have soldiers on the battlefield against AI security, or with AI security. So Harsh, please take us through the analytics, the compliance, the what happens inside the organization. We'd love to hear more, and then I'm also gonna would love to ask you some follow-up questions. Let's get going.
Absolutely. So, what I'm going to focus more on today is firstly, absolutely amazing to be here. Thank you. And yeah, as I was going to mention, in this world of lovable and Replit, everyone is making AI tools. I want to focus on how we are making those tools. And then obviously I'll show what I have created, what do we have in store. But let me get started with the basics. So what do we do, or what this project do? It creates statics. For example, this kind of images that you see on your screen, or the reels that you get, or the emails that you get from Deriv, or any promotional, whatever you subscribe to, they send you those mails. Our team is in charge of creating that in such a way that it is appealing and at the same time compliant, because we work for fintech, and I think that's very important and to be stringent here, that we can't just throw around words very irresponsibly. So we want to be cautious of that while utilizing the good potential of AI. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And this attitude and postly that you're seeing, these are just the names given by us, but essentially what they do is create this kind of images for us while being compliant. Now, before beginning to show you the tool, I want to touch base on the book on what I just came across some years ago. And this is the philosophy that was put into this product as well. So essentially, this in this book, it basically talks about, hey, you put two groups. One group is responsible for making the spots that you're seeing on your screen. Another group is also doing the same, but the first group is focusing on the quantity, and the second group is going to focus on the quality. And the job of the first group is to make like 50 pots in 1 hour, and the other group is just to make one pot, which is the perfect and immaculate one. So why I'm telling you this is because in this case, what happened was, obviously you would think that, hey, the first, second group, they are just making one, it's going to be amazing. But it turns out the first group usually turns out to be the group who is churning out so many pots. And while doing so, they are learning too much in the process that they are making the better one too. And the other group, they tend to focus or think about, hey, what does that great actually mean? So that's the philosophy that we have applied here as well. That having a, I came across this as well, like big design upfront is dumb, but having no design upfront is dumber. So here we have put enough thought that this is a good enough platform that is going to be production ready from start, while making sure we are not just ready for any adaptation. Because AI is changing every day. Google churns out Nano Banana Pro. Somebody else throws something at me. We want to be ready for that as well. So the whole architecture that I'm going to take you through, it's made considering this. And another concept, the last concept I'm promising you, is the concept of steel threads. So essentially, what this means is, uh, so we have to talk to a lot of systems. We have to talk to compliance. We have to talk to security. We have to talk to all this image providers. And the good balance that I at least feel while making any architecture is to follow this concept of steel threads. And what this basically means is you make all the production, all the systems in their own silos, but in such a way they have parity with other systems. So instead of, you have seen all those architecture diagrams with boxes, we focus not on those boxes but on these lines that connect two boxes together. So that's the concept of steel thread. And with that, I want to just show you the tool that I have. Actually, the multiple tools I have to show. First one I'll begin with is called Postly. And what it does, it creates the static images. Basically, Reels and all is going in a pipeline, but right now it creates this kind of images. And apart from that, it creates this text as well, which basically talks about trading. How do you, it's talking about trading, how do you learn that and stuff like that. So, who it is created for? Again, two concepts. First, it is created for our partners. And what are partners? Partners are essentially how you have heard about this Amazon affiliates. They bring the influencers, they bring people to Amazon to shop more articles. Partners are essentially same. They are the backbone of our business. And essentially, they reach out to our clients and they teach, hey, this is what trading means. This is what this particular concept means. And the way we want them to do is via this platform, so that they come and they have everything ready for them. But another audience that we wanted to cater to was our internal teams, because at the end of the day, it's just image generation. So why not create it in such a way both objectives are fulfilled? One is for the partners, one is for internal teams. So with that mindset, the entire thing is created. So yeah, the first thing that it does, as you can see, is, let me show you from start. Again, same like Chris, I'm not going to show you the actual system. I have intentionally hidden few things. So with this, you come to this page and it has multiple options. I'm walking about the first one, which is the Deriv ads. And over here, we have few inputs that we want from audience, that, hey, where is your audience? And stuff like that. And with that, it takes you through that pipeline and gives you this kind of thing. But hey, you got your images, that's good enough. Now we want input from you. Again, just like how ChatGPT, Gemini does, that give me whether you liked it, whether you did not like it. And everything is treated as an input for me to learn. And then obviously you can download it. But one more thing that you can do apart from that is the embedding code. You take this code, you put it in your website, and let's say this is a simple website. You take this code and put it over here, that image will pop up over here. Now, anybody clicks on this image, they will be basically directed to, as Pavel mentioned, it's a live session. Things like this are bound to happen. So let me show you the process, what happens. For that, I have to bring my, so let's copy this code, go to cursor. Okay, so let's suppose this is a partner's website. They take that code, they come over here, they put it in their website. They do a refresh. Okay, let me see why it's not working. Yeah. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to see a website over here, the image over here, and clicking on that will take you to our website, which is their website. Now what happens is, by that we get to know, now I come to the second piece, which is the analytics of it. So this is another platform that we have built, which tracks everything. Like right now, how many views are there on my website, how many visitors, what all is happening in my website in the real time, while ensuring that we are GDPR compliant. It does not track who you are, it just tracks this much and tells us good enough information so that we can have this iterative loop to keep on learning and improving our platform. As you can see, I can't see who those people are, but they have done this, that, whatever. Everything is tracked, it is kind of reported to us. We learn from this behavior that, hey, our consumers are from this country, they use it at this particular time, and they are using one of our tools more than other. So we get all of these things from that one single click. Now coming to the next portion of it, we have another section. Like, let's say, hey, you don't like this, you click on make new post and it's going to generate more posts for you. Then another section that we have is basically we want to, this is another pipeline in that overall flow, which is essentially the whatever is the current price, it fetches that price. Again, we have connectors, all the integrations, which is fetching the live Bitcoin price, and it's giving a candlestick chart, and people can again share it in their WhatsApp, Telegram with their audience to kind of interact and kind of, hey, comment up if you think it's going to go up, comment down, just to have some sort of gamification. And the last one is one of my favorites. So this one essentially, it takes all the news that is present right now. Let's see it from start. So these are all the news from last 24 hours. Let's see if you're aware about something. Everyone knows that silver is going up. So silver most overbought since blah, blah, blah. I click on this. I just click on create ad, and it gives me this kind of ads for me to use and again interact with my audience. So this one, like Meta trades at blah, blah, blah. The news was essentially which of the magnificent seven is the best one to buy kind of thing, and it gives you this kind of visuals, and rest of the process remains same. You can share it using this embedding code, you can download it, you can utilize it. So that's about one of the platform that we have, which is a partner facing platform. Now the problem that we solved next was, we have multiple tools, Gemini, you have Sora, you have so Figma, ChatGPT, etc., etc. So for a lot of tasks, for generating a headline, for generating a copy, you use maybe ChatGPT. For generating designs, you use Figma, so on and so forth. We brought all of this together and packaged in all of our tools, and we are doing it multiple times in multiple places, so it made sense for us to just do it once and utilize it multiple times. So that's the problem that we solved. How we created this another platform. This was more for testing purposes, which basically was a subset of the platform that I'm showing right now. But what it does is allows me to, let's say, do a bunch of things. So this one, as you can see, I just gave one of our own blog posts, but you can essentially give any link to it. It has a web browser agent already in it. And this one, I want to talk about one interesting fact about this. As you can see, the timeline, I searched for this. I was just doing my own work for testing. I did it in like 19th of November, and that time silver was going up. I was busy in my work, I ignored this, but essentially I should have listened to this advice. So I just gave this blog post and asked it to just do this, generate an image for this, and it came up with an image for it. Obviously, it's not good. People or our internal design team probably wants to iterate on this. How they can do it is simply how everyone is now comfortable with. Let me show you an example of that. So this one, for example, someone from our team wanted to generate a background which is tech. Probably they wanted to convey some tech related information. They probably didn't like it. They asked it, hey, can you do this? Delete the line and icon on the blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So the point is, it's conversational while giving you another important feature which we want. I personally believe in having human in the loop. So it is made considering that mindset that, hey, there is a human in the loop. It can ask it to refine n number of times, and you're going to end up with something which you are definitely going to use. So let me show you this example. So this one is again for my own testing. So some news, blah, blah, blah. It gave you all these variations. As you can see, multiple back and forth happened here. All the images are conveying the same information, but using various different approaches. All the images look little different. So we come here to this tool to play around with this ideas, and whatever ideas I like, next thing that I can do over here is I can generate this kind of templates. What are templates? Nobody wants to redo things. As a developer, personally, I have invested 2 3 hours of time just to automate something that I probably would do in like 2 seconds. So this is just that we at Deriv make all this as it's basically, as you can see, this is one of our sample images. Put it on our public LinkedIn itself. It has all these 3D elements flying over this guy. In order to generate that, it's a repeated process. We do it an n number of times. So we made this template. It has our own brand guidelines fit into it, and it keeps on churning all these things that we need. We need a dollar symbol, we need this 1 2%, we need this XAU, blah blah blah. You get all of this and you just put it into your images and package it together to make it professional, compliant, and that brings me to my next tool. So the next one is basically uh, a free Canva, you can say. So Canva is obviously good. It has its own benefits, features. It's a billion-dollar company, which is great, but it doesn't have my brand language. So that's where we came up with this free Canva clone kind of thing, where you can come here, you can put things like ask AI to put a gradient on it. What that does, put something like this. It has an element of Photoshop into it that, hey, you want this layer to come up, it has this element. Then it has our brand kit as well. What this one does is whatever we have generated so far, it keeps a track of that from one centralized location, shows it over here so that I can just click on it, it appears on my images, I move that around and make a final image for myself. And everything I want to be basically made a reusable. So at last, if I know that, hey, I have this template where I put my Deriv logo over here, headline over here, this here, blah blah blah, I can save it as a template so that other people, other designers, they can come and reuse this. So that is about this tool. Then it does not end here. Just like Steve Jobs says, one more thing, I want to continue doing that. So the next tool that I want to talk about, again, I know I am covering a lot, but yeah, feel free to stop me and ask questions. The next one is the overall campaign pipeline that we have. So over here, what we expect is people to come here, upload a PDF. This is again for our internal teams. They come over here, give me their specification. Let me give you an example. Let's say we recently launched in UAE. So this document is going to be about, hey, we are targeting or launching in UAE. This is our primary objective. This is my brand tone, target audience. I want to focus more on Instagram, LinkedIn. And as a next step, what it is going to do is give me this n number of images. And by default, it is so smart or intelligent that it knows that, hey, the Dubai audience use metro a lot. The Dubai audience is a good amount of expats population. Dubai has a good bunch of people from various ethnicity. They come from all walks of life. They do a lot of different profession. So it is giving me those kind of images. I select one of this, click on continue. It takes me to this page where again I can play around and make this a final image. Then I have another one, which is, let's say, for people who are patient enough. They want to, again, we got a lot of insights, lots of help from our designer team. My senior VP over here, Wakas, who gave me a lot of insights about, hey, this book would help you, something like that. So all those non-technical things we translated into this technical concepts and put it over here. So what this one does is, this one does a creative debate. So as you can see, there are multiple elements talking among each other, everyone coming up with a concept one, concept two, blah blah blah. It tells you why this wins, and then finally they debate among themselves that, hey, I feel this one is going to win and it is going to perform well at TikTok versus Instagram because of XYZ reasons. Another LLM kicks in, it gives it the entire thing, the rating of something, blah blah blah. And finally you have the compliance check, which is inbuilt, And this compliance check is essentially as per a lot of things. So as you can imagine, Deriv is in like a lot of locations. We operate in a lot of different places, and that's why we need to be compliant in all of those. So again, we had a lot of back and forths to put those compliance related things into our pipeline so that we can cater to all the different compliance rules that are out there. And this one, as you can see, is, it tells you that again the UAE concept, I'm continuing. It tells you that expats don't want to be the wolf of Wall Street. They want to be the provider who turned a modest salary into a family's future. So this is the human insight, how we do things. It figures out the core idea. It does a competitive analysis as well in the background. It has all the information about Deriv inherently put into its context, that hey, Deriv has 20 is in the market for 26 years. It has this, that, blah blah blah. And it gives you again lot of different ideas, that again you can market it like this, market it like that, blah blah blah. And it's, we want to people give people as much as options as possible, while ensuring that our pipeline doesn't break. Our pipeline is resilient enough for me to add more things. I don't want people to get bored of my tool as well. That's why it has something called as weighted learning put into it. And that weighted learning takes into the effect few things which cannot go wrong because of compliance, and few things I'm open to learning and adapting as per what I'm tracking about the user. Hey, this person changes color red to blue a lot of times. This person um, ask for a lot of this particular, let's say a gender, I would give more of those options. This person goes for an image which is nostalgic versus a minimal. All of these things are taken care of in this making this. Now I just want to talk about few more things. All of these things, how, I'm not going to obviously walk you through the entire architecture, but as I want to mention, there are a lot of things happening to ensure that all of these things are in place. And in order to make sure all of these things is resilient enough, we had made some architectural choices. And what are those choices? I'll just walk you through that. So we use temporal over here. Temporal takes care of me that, hey, for all my async calls, because image generation, video generation, all of these things are time taking things. So I don't want 20,000 people to come to this platform and just not get their work done or get all these pipelines broken, because that's not acceptable. So that's why we use temporal to kind of take care of the distributed state management. In terms of framework, we are using LangGraph because we are doing a lot of cyclic work over here. Agents do something, then rethink. That's why LangGraph was the choice for us. Then we use GK. We use GK because we are starting small, but we have a roadmap to go big. So we want to ensure we cater to our internal team. We want to cater to the partner team, and those partners can be like 20,000 plus. So we want to ensure we have auto scaling baked in from day one, while ensuring we are not wasting too much resources. Then we have Superbase as a choice because it's good. It's built on top of Postgres, which is one of my favorites. And on top of that, it's more of a choice. Our company is decided on this technology, and to have that parity, we use this. Finally, for image generation, we use Replicate. Why? Because as I mentioned, we want to basically be adaptable. So we just don't want to stick that, hey, Nano Banana Pro forever. Maybe ChatGPT will come up with something. Replicate gives us that freedom to just jump to anything without changing, making a lot of changes in our pipeline by default. So that brings me to one last thing. And that is essentially this analogy which I found about this. This is a very interesting thing. Please Google about it or chat GPT about it. So it's the Choluteca Bridge. So this is more like, I want to talk about the architecture. Our architecture. So what happened was, this bridge, it was like this. It was built amazingly. It which then there came a hurricane. What happened was, it was built so perfectly, so nicely, that it withstood that hurricane, but the river itself shifted. So why I'm telling you this in the context of AI is, AI is moving so fast. So we don't want to be so rigid about architecture that, hey, the world is going there, but we made some choices today, and we are not able to just go along with the rest of the world. So with that, I want to just end it, and yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Oh, amazing. Very glad to kind of get that insight. I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to move the policy into production grade AI systems, right? This is, I think, a lot of the change that we will see globally and in our workflows is going to be definitely, what we now call intent-driven systems or policy-driven systems, right? You're going to be applying the policy and allowing the AI that you develop to follow that policy, right? And as long as it moves inside this policy, you're going to be, happy. And if it does something that is outside of this policy, you're going to give it a smaller cookie, let's call it, right? So the cookie system for the AIs will be based on, hey, are you inside my policies? Are you outside my policies? And this creates, the intent, and mixes very well with what you, Chris, were mentioning, right? As the dynamic retraining of the models, or the retraining the vertical models based on new data, right? And today, it is reserved for, the top tier global financial elite companies like Deriv. But I think this type of behavior in development work will actually trickle down to smaller companies, smaller teams, and startups. Yeah. But what you're discussing today, I think, is extremely advanced. So, Harsh, as I said, I think, if I may ask you one or two follow-up questions.
Absolutely.
So how do you handle, for example, the identity resolution without manual tags across different systems in the analytics? Yeah, when you do the analytics, how do you handle that? Identity resolution. Is it like a separate system that you use, or is it something built in house?
So it's a mix of both. It's the power of the entire World Wide Web. We have this IP address. What we do is we just utilize that. There is something called as MatchMind GeoLite 2 database. So what this does is this tracker script automatically captures the user's IP address on all of their requests. And then using that IP address, I'll just resolve it to their country, region, city without doing any sort of manual tagging over there.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I'm super interested, where does the pressure go now? Is it going to go more to the infrastructure, or the marketing? Like, is the top dollar now on adding more horsepower to give you, the competitive edge when you're an individual user? Or is it, okay, I am taking all of this marketing information and I'm basically processing it, and I'm getting better information clarity, and therefore making better decisions?
I think, again, I have to go with, it's going to be a very fine balance between both. Without that, it's gonna just go either way, one or the other way. So yeah, it's more
Okay.
of a,
I mean, I personally believe in horsepower, right? So I believe that the more powerful the systems, the kind of the better, 51% output you can get. And as long as you're just 51% on top of the market, you're able to win. So
maybe we think on that.
yeah, it was very cool to hear everything. So maybe a little bit of closing, in one sentence, Chris, for you. So do you feel like every night you're really saving the security? Like, do you see that this system is getting, daily usage, nightly usage? You see that this is kind of something that is, without disclosing too much information internally, right? But is this system, under pressure? Do you feel like without this type of system, your team would basically have a lot of sleepless nights.
Absolutely. I think that's the crux of working in security. Security never sleeps. We have to be right 100% of the time. Threat actors just have to be right once. And so this is really what is helping us. We can go to bed, we can close our eyes and sleep peacefully, enjoy our weekends, because we know we have this system working 24/7 for us whenever we need it.
And people are trading 24/7, right? So I think the Nasdaq and the New York Stock Exchange have both announced that now they will start to trade token pairs with publicly traded stocks, right? So both of these have announced this, and I'm sure that this will just increase the amount of security that's happening on a day-to-day basis that's needed, because it's not only going to be the less popular assets that are traded 24/7. Everything is going on chain. Everything is going 24/7. So I think that's going to be super fun, and hopefully in a few months you guys can come back and talk about this a little bit more as well. And then to you, Harsh, what is the number one piece of advice that you have extracted from your days working in Deriv? What is the first step to building a production grade system? Do you start with, what are your goals, or do you write a PRD now? Do you ask coding agents to execute a prototype before you even try to build the architecture on your own? So what is the first step that everybody should take when designing a new agent?
As I mentioned in the concept that I used as well, that we have to be very iterative in our thinking. So obviously, nothing changes in my mind the importance of having a PRD. Nowadays, we use the spec for word as a word for PRD, but essentially that needs to be there. And then we have a lot of freedom in terms of getting an approval from our stakeholders by showing the placeholder demos from all this Figma and fancy looking websites, which are close enough just to get an approval from that. Hey, is this what you're looking for? Then combine that with your PRD and then ask cloud to help you or go all the way.
Amazing. So I think everybody that's watching us, and now it's well over 3,000 people. So hopefully we're going to have a lot of rewatches as well. So we have 3,000 people live. Guys, you're welcome to join this amazing experience. Like, we are inviting you to join lablab.ai and build the next stages of the security protocols, the next stages of the agentic protocols, right? And we have amazing opportunities to actually work with the Deriv team if you are good enough. Yeah, if you prove you're good enough, these guys will hire you. Yeah, this is the reality of today's world. You have to prove that you are good enough. So how you do that is you go to lablab.ai, you apply to the Deriv hat. Either you're physically there in Dubai and you're welcome to come to the Deriv office, beautiful 360 views, lovely food, lovely people to meet, or you're going to be joining us online. What I wanted to say is that we are on a mission to create an equal opportunity situation globally around AI technology. And this is a prime example of us not looking at your education, us not looking at what color you are, us not looking which country you're from. Basically, if you're good enough, if your skill is good enough to join the hack and to commit and to build the products of the future, you will get your chance. And this is what we're all about. Yeah. So for me, it is super important. So please join our community, join the movement, and make sure that you're joining the LabLab chapters as well. So there's a chapter in Dubai, chapter in San Francisco. As we speak, we are building in San Francisco. We're also building in New York, London, Paris, yes, Kuala Lumpur, and any other place that you're from. We have a chapter there. So thank you very much once again. Such an amazing presentation. to Chris and to Harsh. And guys, like, you did an amazing job. We had so many questions. I think we're gonna have, be able to answer some of them. I don't know if we have time to bring up any of the questions in the chat, but what will happen is that, we'll answer questions over Discord. We'll answer questions, in the hackathon as well. I believe that there is a dedicated hackathon channel on Discord, so you can join the Discord. You can start to post your questions there. You can ask about the different jobs available. You can ask about the challenges that are coming up for the hackathon. You can chat with Chris and Harsh, I believe, directly there, or with the Deriv. You guys are both on the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. So there's no better place like home, and your home is lablab.ai Discord. So yeah, now over 3,370 people watching us live. Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure, and I hope to see you in Dubai next week.
Thanks, Pavel, for having us and all the 3,000 plus people. See you.
See you guys.
Amazing work. Have a good one.